met my husband when he was diagnosed with a severe illness. Even seeing him in pain didn't make me feel compassionate towards him, and I had no doubts about the divorce. No matter the reason, I can't ever tell my current husband. To cut to the chase, my ex-husband is still alive. From what I've heard through the grapevine, he's continuing to work hard, taking strong medication with severe side effects just to pay for his treatments. We were a family of 4 with 2 kids. Other than utility bills, I was only given $68 every Monday for the week's expenses. Every Monday morning. For convenience's sake, let's just call him husband. He never allowed me to serve leftovers from the previous meal, so with just $270 a month, I couldn't possibly cover all the food and household items. My modest savings from before marriage vanished after 5 years of this life. I was only allowed to visit the hair salon twice a year on dates he specified. Husband once said, "You think without makeup you'll go to heaven?" Think again. He wouldn't let me buy cosmetics. We lived in company housing, surrounded only by his colleagues. He didn't want others to think he let his wife work, so he didn't allow me to get a job. Besides taking our kids to the local park, he wouldn't let me leave the house for any other reason. He would accompany me even for grocery shopping, just to make sure I didn't buy anything unnecessary. If I ever needed to go out, I had to email him for permission. Emergencies like taking the kids to the hospital were expectations, but he would only allow me to carry $13 in my wallet. Every time I bought a juice from the vending machine after returning from the park, I had to report it. And if I bought something from a vending machine, he didn't trust me, insisting I buy from stores that provided receipts. Despite all this, I hadn't realized I was a victim of emotional abuse. It only became clear when our kids started kindergarten, and I began chatting with other mothers. Being able to go out and talk to people made my day rain or shine. My husband didn't seem thrilled about my expanding social circle, but he didn't want to ruin his reputation, so he put on a pleasant face in front of the other moms. But as I started connecting more with like-minded mothers, I began to see stark differences, even though we were all stay-at-home moms. From that time, my husband began to see stark differences, even though we were all stay-at-home moms. From that time, my husband began to berate me, comparing me to other moms, saying, "You look so shabby." This learned from Davis's mother. And he said, "Man, I wish I had a wife like Davis's mother, not this dude." And that's when something inside me snapped. The reason other mothers looked well-groomed is that their husbands naturally handed over their paychecks, allowing them to go to the hair salon, shop, and even buy basic cosmetics whenever they felt like it. It's things you never did for me, other husbands do for their wives. It's your fault I look this way. That was the first time I fought back. My husband hesitated for a moment, but then he immediately struck me in the face, knocking me off my feet. All this in front of our children. That's when I finally realized that bullying, emotional abuse, and derogatory comments were all happening in front of our children. Things accelerated after that. I called my parents for the first time in 2 years for help. Behind the scenes, my husband had worked to keep my mom and me from connecting. He complained about me to her and manipulated her into believing I bad-mouthed her and my grandfather. He had successfully alienated me from my family. I poured out everything that had happened over the past decades. It was my mother, and I cried out loud. Then calmly, my mother said, "Don't suddenly bring up divorce. It'll only infuriate him. Just endure it for 1 more month until the kids' winter break." We coordinated our communication during times when my husband was at work. She even secretly sent me some money. I was grateful, but it was also humiliating. Right when I started secretly sending some of my belongings to my parents' home, my husband mentioned he wasn't feeling well and went for a checkup. He's always been the type to make a fuss about even a slight fever, saying he's sick. I didn't think much of it. However, the results came back that he had a serious illness. Even after hearing that, the future of me and my kids seemed more crucial than his. Next thing I knew, I was saying, "So, what do you want me to do about it?" I remember giving him a cold, harsh look as he returned to his room. By then, he was so preoccupied with his illness that he didn't have the energy to mentally abuse me anymore, which allowed me to move more swiftly than I'd anticipated. When I presented him with the divorce papers, he cried, "Are you leaving me?" I responded affirmatively. I told him everything, how it all ended the moment he raised his hand to me, what he did in front of the kids, and that even if he hadn't fallen ill, I'd been planning to leave before the new year. I let it all out. It was the first time he apologized, but I didn't waver. "You're apologizing because you're scared, right?" He just stayed silent. I made him sign the divorce papers right away and submitted them. I didn't ask for alimony, but I did set a condition that he never contacts me or the kids again. I left him with no hesitation, which surprised me. Turns out he grew up with a submissive father and a mother who did whatever she pleased, and he believed that once married, the man should be the dominant figure in the household. Well, I pity him. There's no excuse for his abusive behavior. He cried when told the same by a lawyer. He said, "I'll be reborn, and I'll become a better person," which sent shivers down my spine. I changed my contact details and my mother moved. After staying with her for 6 months, I rented a place and moved out. 2 years later, I'm remarried. My current husband said, "I can't have kids. I want to be a father to yours." For the first time, I realized marriage can be wonderful. I managed the household finances with the salary I earned, doing my best for the sake of the family. About a year ago, my ex-husband called my mother at our family home and asked, "Did you move? How are you and the kids doing?" As for me, he was about to share his current situation, but when he found out I had remarried, he was speechless. When she said to him, "Do you have the right to worry about our daughter and the kids?" he remained silent and hung up the phone, and there has been no communication since then. I've only told my current husband that I divorced due to emotional abuse and incompatibility. I haven't shared how cold-hearted I was during the divorce or my disdain for my ex's pitiable state. I plan to take those secrets to the grave. My ex fled from his domineering mother and meek father, yet tried to manipulate me with pity, hinting at abandonment issues. But I had had enough. I told him, "Even the kids will abandon you," and remained unfazed. I can't even begin to imagine how lonely he must be now. If I were in his shoes, I doubt I could bear it. Seeing my current husband tear up during our children's school performances makes me want to cherish him for the rest of our lives. 6 months have passed since then, and I've run into another problem. It seems my former mother-in-law used a private investigator to find my address and reach out. In her letter she wrote, "I know you have a new life now. I apologize for the sudden intrusion." She went on to say that my ex had debt even before our divorce and that she's been paying it off monthly, around $340. She expects us to assist in the final year. The letter implied I had an affair and suggested we both made mistakes, which should reconcile. I only just found out about the debt. Well, I understood he didn't want to give me money for living expenses. I was still angry, my hands were shaking. I was shocked that someone would really do something like this. I was threatened to repay a debt my ex-husband had that I didn't even know about. There's a chance I could be stalked. They wrote as if I had an affair, so I'm seeking advice at the appropriate places. Husband. I even offered to divorce him to spare him the trouble. For now, I sent the content of the letter addressed to my ex-husband at his workplace. Along with it, I enclosed my lawyer's business card, adding, "I've sought advice from the appropriate places. If you have anything to say, contact here." Waiters lament me even more years after our divorce. My emotions are a messy mix of anger, resentment, and feelings of pity. 3 years later, through my attorney, I firmly stated that without any proof of an affair and without my corporation on debt settlement, I can't help, as around 6 months ago, I heard my ex-husband passed away. I got the news through the lawyer who had been helping me. After discussing with my current husband and after much thought, we decided not to tell our kids that their biological father had passed away. It might sound strange, but on their behalf, I didn't claim any insurance money they might have been entitled to. I renounced it. I might be disrespecting my deceased ex-husband, but personally, it feels like closure, even a sense of relief. I am grateful to my ex-husband for our 2 children. My children and I have built a new family together. While praying for my ex-husband's soul to rest in peace, we plan to cherish and live our current life to the fullest. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you resonated with the content, please leave a positive rating and a comment.